all so much for joining us today. We have a user spotlight here with Michael and Chase. We have met in person actually at the Connect Ed conference with Osaic, so that was really nice. And it's really funny how we met just in general, where Michael, I think you had a session and you talked about PreciseFP, and there was like a line of questions asking you, what is PreciseFP? How do I use it? And you kind of messaged our CEO and was like, can you maybe get someone here to try to talk to the people about it?
Yeah, absolutely. We had done a session, Chase and I, on financial planning actually, and just happened to mention the name of PreciseFP during the session. It wasn't really about that, but we had talked about how we had incorporated it in our process. We'll talk more about that today. But yeah, we had several advisors that had come up to us afterward and said, "What precise what? What was that?" And so I think that's when we identified that at our broker dealer there was kind of a need that we had seen to solve for, and we still are improving every day. But it seemed like there was a lot of advisors that could take advantage of it, and that's why I felt the need to reach out and say, hey, you know, you're not giving away your software for free, but there seems to be a big need over here. So that's why I did that.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. I love that story. I'll give you guys, Michael, do you want to go first? And then Chase, you guys introduce yourself and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll get started. So, Mike Quattrochi, certified financial planner, partner here at Cornerstone Wealth Advisors. Been in the industry for about 7 years. Started my career with a large broker dealer headquartered down here in St. Petersburg, Florida. And myself and our managing partner manage our Trinity office here. And been had the privilege to be with Cornerstone for about 4 years now, and then joined as a partner this year. And enjoy working on the planning side of our firm. We have kind of there are two main areas of engagement. Myself kind of heading up the financial planning side, and I'll let Chase talk about the investment management side as well. But all of us, we run an ensemble practice. So the three of us as partners work as a team. So it's not Mike's clients, Chase's clients, Chuck's clients. We all work together. Our clients are clients of Cornerstone, clients of the firm. And so we see that there's a lot of value in that because all of us have different strengths and goals. But we all also, we like to say, three brains working on every client situation. And that seems to work very well.
That's awesome. I actually have not heard someone phrase it like that. So that's really great for your clients.
Yep.
It is, and it's kind of this idea in finance. This may not make sense, but one plus one can equal three. So if we've got multiple people working with clients, we can provide better outcomes than just one advisor or two. So a little bit of my background: I spent 6 years in asset management prior to coming to the advisory side of the business, particularly in investments specifically. So my role on the team is more uh, on the investment management side of what we do, managing portfolios for clients, and helping them uh, kind of build, monitor, and maintain that with our custodian. Um, for us, as Mike mentioned, we kind of tripped into Precise FP, but it really fit a need for us. As an ensemble practice, communication amongst our team is really important, and streamlined processes. Because while I focus on investment management, Mike focuses on financial planning. We have a whole operations team as well that is doing all the behind the scenes, and so it's incredibly important for us to make sure things are uh, moving very smoothly, and that our client experience, start to finish, is a good process that clients are comfortable with.
Really great. And for the operations team, how big is that team?
Right now, just two, and we actually have
Nice.
an interview this afternoon to add a third.
Yeah.
Oh, whoa. See, you're growing and it's kind of that big decision of do we add someone new? We got to train them and things like that, but it sounds like it's time to do that.
Yeah,
Yep.
Really
and
great.
Precise FP is a great plug and play, and we've built it so that when we add a new person, it's easy,
Mhm.
and that's a goal for us with new people. We hope that we'll have to continue to add staff, and we want something that's very digestible, easy for our clients, but also easy for our staff.
Hmm. Yeah, it's not, a big learning curve or tons of training required.
Mhm.
Okay, perfect. And what integrations are you guys using? What's your tech stack look like?
Yeah, so primarily we use Redtail as our CRM for many reasons. Number one, a great product. Number two, it's good to work with a large one because they
Mhm.
typically have more integrations. But we use Redtail primarily, and as far as the CRM goes, and we find that PreciseFP, obviously, you guys have done a lot of the mapping, so that when questionnaires are finished, we're able to export that data. For the most part, pretty much 99% of the data can feed directly into a Redtail client profile, which is a big win for us. Again, reducing errors, not having to copy and paste data over or key it in ourselves or have our ops team do that. So we use Redtail for our CRM. For our onboarding, of course, PreciseFP. And for our kind of workflow system, we recently adopted Hubly, which has been a very powerful workflow system. Again, kind of keeping everybody on the same page. We have 2 locations around the country. We have multiple operations associates that, for the most part, we kind of segment the book. So Kim in our office may work on a certain section of clients, and then Janine on the other. But as we continue to build out the team, there was a large need for us to make sure that everybody's on the same page where are we with this client or this onboarding step, et cetera. So I would say that those are our kind of main 3. Chase, did I miss any?
Only other would be eMoney, our financial planning software. I know typically eMoney,
I
um,
mentioned
e, eMoney, Right Capital, Money Guide, I know are kind of the 3 juggernauts in the industry, but we primarily use eMoney.
Really great. And are you guys doing estate planning, tax planning to use Holistic Plan or college planning at all?
No, so we don't use any other specific vendors for those items.
Okay.
We do include them in our financial planning process, but we don't have any other third-party vendors that we use for those 2 specific subjects.
Really nice. And when you're onboarding somebody, are you filling it out on their behalf, or is this something that your prospects are filling out and then sending to you?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, kind of to dive into why we found PreciseFP very valuable was Chase and I were tasked with kind of redeveloping our client service model, right? What does it look like from the first meeting you have with a prospect to 6 months down the road after an account has been funded or a financial plan has been completed? So A to Z. And we took it step by step to see where were the pain points, where were the areas of inefficiencies in our practice. And one of the items that we found was, great, we're really great at meeting with new clients, but then that step of they've shaken our hands and said we want to do business with you, and then now getting the information to put on the paperwork to then open the account, get the account transferred over, or get a financial plan started, that was a little clunky. And especially at the beginning, that's why we call it kind of the DNA. You're sitting in front of somebody you just met and they made a decision to work with you, but now you have to sit there and go, okay, well, what's your birthday? What's your social? Let me see your driver's license. What's the expiration date? It's a lot of kind of sensitive information, and it's personally identifiable information, but it just kind of felt a little awkward or a little bit weird to sit in front of somebody and be really excited about working together and then have to kind of drill into those very personal questions of, hey, well, we need your beneficiary's birthday and social for our paperwork. Well, most people may or may not have that memorized. So what we do in our process is, once we've decided to work with somebody and they've decided to work with us, we let them know, hey, by the time you get home today, you will receive our onboarding questionnaire in your email. And that really has taken the burden off of us to have them try and get all of that information while they're in front of us. But we also want to kind of strike it while the iron's hot. You don't want somebody to say, oh, well, okay, we're looking forward to working with you, and then you say, okay, well, I need this, this, and this to make this happen. And then they go, oh, well, I don't have that right now. I'll have to get back to you. So if we tell them, hey, we're going to need this ahead of time, but by the time you get home today, you'll have an email in your inbox with our secure onboarding questionnaire, then we're able to give them an opportunity to maybe call that son that they want to list as a contingent beneficiary on the way home. Hey, I'm going to need your social. I don't remember it. I'm trying to set you up for a little bit of our estate planning, right? As a contingent beneficiary. So we found that working the onboarding questionnaire specifically into our process has alleviated that little bit of, I don't ever want to feel like I'm interrogating a client trying to get information to put on a form, right? And sitting in front of somebody that you just met, or maybe it's the second meeting, and asking them about their social security number, their birthday, their driver's license, their income, their risk tolerance, all of those items, those can be a little bit hard to get and maybe make people go, wait, hold on a second. I'm not sure about that. So we found that this is a much smoother process to help kind of get over that hump.
We want to make things easy. You go to
Yeah.
fidelity.com, it's easy to open an account. If you download, Rocket Money, it's easy to open that and link. And so we were looking for a solution to make things easy for our clients. And everybody does everything on their phones nowadays. So having a solution that feels very professional, very easy, you know, no brain power, 5 minutes, here's everything you need. It brought us up to the level that we felt was necessary in order to make it just feel easy and normal.
Yeah, I agree with that. It definitely matches other industries. So it definitely fits in nicely. And I know that in a previous conversation, Chase, you kind of mentioned that it allows for that privacy too, where they have the ability to maybe think of those decisions and simmer on it a little bit before they're put on the spot in a meeting trying to come up to a conclusion.
Yeah, it's a mix both in the onboarding and in the financial planning process of, I think we found many times people give us information and then they rethink it or say, wait, that wasn't right. Or, I forgot to factor this in. And sometimes we deal in a world of sensitivity, right? Both with the personal information that people are sharing, socialist driver's license, bank account information, all of that, as well as just information about their lives, the decisions that they've made in the past, decisions they're trying to make in the future. And so having a partner that allows us to acknowledge that sensitivity and kind of meet people where they're at, of feeling more comfortable putting it in online, knowing that it's encrypted, getting to maybe think through, talk with a spouse or a child as they're putting in financial planning information. One of our goals we talk about in our office is meet people where they're at. And so we felt like this was a solution to help with that, particularly with sensitive information.
Yeah, really great. So this is going to be, you promise them that by the time they get home, they'll have this in their inbox. What's the next meeting look like now that you have that information gathered? You're not having to spend that time going through all of those minute details, or are you just kind of doing a high level overview of it at that point?
Yeah, so it depends on the engagement, right? If they're going through a financial planning process, typically we have a specific questionnaire that just gathers the details that we need to fill out our financial planning agreement, right? Well, obviously we haven't actually entered into any of our steps yet in our financial planning process. So this is more of just the initial gathering so that we can get our agreement signed, maybe collect our payment, and then move on to our actual process. If it's somebody that's opening up an account with us and they're maybe not going through financial planning, then there may be a follow-up meeting once the account's funded, for example. But particularly where we're using the majority of our onboarding questionnaires is more up at the front of an engagement, right? And that can be whether it's just somebody that's opening up an account or moving it over, maybe doing a rollover, or somebody that's actually going through our financial planning process. We're using it a lot to gather initial client information, and then we also have some things built out in our workflows of maybe say it's an existing client that has had an account for a long time, and now they're coming to maybe open up another account. Well, we have data in our CRM, which may or may not still be accurate. Old phone number, old email, old income or expense information, suitability type questions. Maybe their risk tolerance has changed over time. So we're also using it as an ongoing, as part of our client relationship to make sure and verify that the information that we have on file is accurate and complete. So again, having that two-way road between, we use Redtail specifically, both the import function and the export function. We're
Yeah.
using it to import data to get the initial questionnaire and then export it to Redtail. But then as an ongoing, if we have a client, 5 years down the road, well, we want to make sure that they're still using that email. Maybe they've changed jobs and they're not using that work email anymore, things like that, so that we make sure that our new account paperwork for that client is going to be accurate and complete.
Yeah, they're not living in a vacuum, right? Their life is always changing.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
All right, perfect. I want to jump into the actual onboarding form at this
Okay.
point. So what we're going to show now is just the onboarding form. You mentioned that there's other forms that you guys use as well for other services like financial planning, but this one will just be for onboarding. I did figure out a way to share the email real quick. I like to
Oh, cool.
show this just because I was really impressed by it. This is the initial email somebody will get on that in that onboarding process. So after that meeting, it sounds like they'll promise that this will be in their inbox to start that onboarding procedure. But if you look at this email, it's so clear, it's so communicative. There's a numbered list of the things that this person should have prepared in order to go through the process. So I personally wanted to show this just because there is default text that comes with PreciseFP when somebody receives an engagement, and that is customizable. And you can kind of see the value here in why you would want to customize it so you can set yourself up as that premier firm, being very clear, very communicative, and letting people know, even from this part of the process, what will be required.
Yeah, Nora, if I could make a quick comment, and I appreciate you showing that as well, is again, going back to what I said earlier, our goal here is to remove the friction,
Mhm.
right? Like Chase mentioned, well, who we're competing against is not just our peers who might be on this call, but it's also the self-directed websites, the fidelity.com, where somebody can go and open an account by putting in their information in 5 minutes, right? And so by building this out, there's a reason why we did this. And it's again because I want somebody to be prepared so that when they click begin and the green button, they are ready to input all of the information. They don't want to get into the questionnaire and then go, oh, I got to go look for the beneficiary information, or I got to go grab my driver's license because I don't have my DL number memorized, for example. So by preparing the client, telling them in the meeting, hey, this will be in your inbox, there's an expectation of it'll be waiting for you. But then number two, do a little bit of homework before you start it so that once you sit down, you already know exactly what you're going to need, and then you'll just be able to go through it very quickly. That's kind of the objective here.
Yep. And how nice is it for you to have all of these uploaded in one place rather than separate emails? One email comes in with their drivers, another email comes in with their statement. Everything is being put in one place for you guys as an office.
It is correct. And also specifically, just tap on the compliance side specifically. Obviously, some of these data points are sensitive information. And so something that should not be sent, in an email, for example. So having a particular portal that's approved is obviously very beneficial. And then again, working with an operations team, well, they know where to look to find this information. They don't have to ask me, hey, can you forward me that email, for example, because it's all going into our portal where our ops team can access it.
That's great. So kind of the tidbit there is put in some front end work and maybe customize that language of I like how Chase and Michael put it, where you're almost blueprinting out the user experience. blueprint it out, see how you want them to, what they want to see when they first get the email, how clear and communicative you want it to be. And I'm sure you could even use AI for a lot of these things of, make a sequential list and make it in a numeric order and, have that to help as well.
Yeah, I think finding where PreciseFP fits into your client experience is really important because uh, everyone has a different approach, whether it be with their brand, whether it be with the types of clients that they work with, uh, the size of their staff, or maybe it's just them with no staff. And so we started with kind of the end in mind, building a process, and laying that out, and then saying PreciseFP fits in here, here, and here, and starting with the end in mind, and then allowing it to be seamless for our staff to where Mike and I now are at a point where when we get a commitment from the client, we put down the information that we need into our workflow software, and then it's hands off for us completely. Every step with PreciseFP in regards to importing, exporting is completely done by our staff, so it frees up our time to be back
Wow.
working with and communicating with clients.
Yeah, because those things add up,
Yeah.
and it's kind of relying on your brain to make sure oh, did I export it? Did I import it? Did I get to that? So giving that, having that process, I'm sure it's in Hubly, like you mentioned, and then your operations team takes it from there is very
Yeah.
comforting, I'm sure.
And ask any advisor, that side part of the business is the most frustrating and the least exciting. Most of us are
Yeah.
in this business because we love working with people, and more time we can spend with people, less on the behind the scenes work, is really important. And PreciseFP really helps with that process.
Yes, I think I saw a stat the other day where it's like 38% of the business day is on those administrative things. So imagine what
Try
you
to
can
reduce
do in
that
a,
statistic there.
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, get all that back. All right, so now the next part is to actually click on that green button and it'll take you into the actual engagement here. Kind of the same thing here, very clear, very communicative. Before you begin, this is the things we'll need, and then they can start.
Yep.
All right, so here I want to ask, did you guys start with a template and then customize it, or did you start from scratch to build this?
Good question. We did use a template. We started with one of the onboarding questionnaire templates that you all provided, and then a little bit of learning experience with the mapping to Redtail. Again, it's CRM specific that you all
Yep.
have a great guide that I was able to be provided with. So when Chase and I were building this out, we just had to make sure that each field was mapping to the correct spot so that when we hit export, it will actually feed into the correct area in our CRM. But we did start
Yeah.
with an overall template for an onboarding questionnaire, and we really simplified a lot out of that. So we actually did a lot of uh, deleting rather than
Mhm.
adding. Really just had to move things around again to where, for our practice specifically and our paperwork that we're filling out, we've also built this to where when our ops team is going and looking at it from their perspective, they can have this up, or the client profile, the printout of this on the left screen, and our new account portal on the right screen, and essentially go through in sequential order. So for our practice, there's a reason why it's this order, but for another, it might be a slightly different, maybe adjusted version based on how they need to fill out their account paperwork. But again, maximizing efficiency here, we built this out in an order to where, as our associates and our ops team is filling out the account paperwork, it's in the same order going down.
Yeah, like it coordinates.
It coordinates, correct.
Nice. I like that because a lot of offices might be thinking, I need to add to this. But I like your strategy, and maybe everyone think of this strategy, slim it down. Slim it down and chop out what you don't need because I can already tell from the original red tail template, this first box is slimmed down, which has to be easier for the client.
Mhm.
All right, now we'll kind of scroll down. We'll notice a lot of the fields are mandatory. It looks like those might be coordinating with the items that you guys need for to eliminate NIGOs and make sure you can open up an account successfully.
Yep.
All right, and then here we have banking information. This is dynamic, so if somebody does select no, that banking information, oh, but I need to reload. That banking information will go away. So that's a nice little touch as well. And I'll
Yeah,
re-sign in here to
no
this.
worries. While you're doing that, again, reducing the friction, there was a situation when we first started building this out where we hadn't used as much conditional logic as we do now. Whereas, a specific account, for example, maybe somebody is gifting a grandchild some money and they're not planning on adding additional dollars. Maybe they don't want to provide their bank information. They're just planning on funding it with a check, right? So we added in the conditional logic to where it's not going to require them or obligate them to provide something that they maybe don't plan on providing us, right? So that's a great example there. And then we also use it as well with like a co-client or a contingent beneficiary. You'll see in a couple of slides here. Some people don't want to add contingent beneficiaries. We recommend it, but some people don't want to. And yeah, contingent. Would you like to add contingent beneficiaries? Yes or no? Right. So using that conditional logic will allow somebody to do so if they choose to, but if they don't want to, it's not going to prevent them from moving forward, number one, but number two, obligate them to do something that maybe they don't want to do at this point in time.
Yeah.
And our industry changes very rapidly, and this allows us to make changes very easily. For example, our compliance team has shifted in the last few years in regards to trusted contact from the mindset of, you know, oh, try to get it, you know, if it's available, to it's not quite mandatory, but you have an obligation to ask and make sure that that information is at least attempted to be gathered rather than just put it in there if it feels right. And so for us, then we were able to add that to our onboarding questionnaire and with a little explanation. And so we can kind of check that box with our compliance department saying, we are making every best reasonable effort to get a trusted contact for every account.
Mhm.
And so from their perspective, they're saying, great, you have a process for doing the right thing and doing what we're asking. And particularly with compliance, it's all about your process and what you've done.
Yeah. So it's kind of treated like a living, breathing document that might adjust as
Mm-hmm.
the industry adjusts or regulations adjust. And
Exactly.
then it looks like here we are uploading statements, or same thing. You're asking if they want to upload statements, and then they have that upload option.
Right.
And then photo, I assume that could be helpful in Redtail as well, where maybe you have more than one John Smith. Having them upload their photo can let you know, oh, this is the blonde one or the brunette one, and kind of differentiate that way.
Yep.
All right, and then we'll go to the next page. This is dynamic as well. What we're looking at on this first question, employment status. Right now it says full-time, so that employment section is open to fill out. But if you change that to something like retired, that employment section will go away altogether.
Yep.
So that's really nice. And then something I wanted to looks like this is getting into more of the financial things right now. And these look like they are mandatory. So you want to make sure you do know those things in order for them to move forward.
Mhm.
All right. And then next, after the beneficiary items, we have the risk tolerance. Can you talk about the risk tolerance for a second and why you decided to include this inside of the onboarding questionnaire?
Yeah, I can speak to that. So, risk tolerance questionnaires, I think any advisor can attest that they can be tricky. There's lots of them out there. We've tried a lot, and PreciseFP, I believe, has some of their own that are unique. We've tried Riskalyze, other softwares. What we have found is that for us, we wanted our risk tolerance questionnaire to complement our conversations and verify what we had decided upon with the client. And so it was very easy. We actually took the required risk tolerance questionnaire for our wealth management platform and just put the questions in exactly as they are on there. So that, again, from a compliance standpoint, we are checking the box specifically. We also have a bit of a range that we can work with and have a process to where if they answer this differently than what we had maybe discussed in a meeting, then that gives us some flexibility to say, okay, you answered this way, but we can still do this or that based upon our barriers. And so for us, that was a tricky component of our business, and we decided to bake it right in just because it's necessary information for us when we are opening a new account. And so for us, we had played with the idea of keeping it separate versus it being mandatory as a part of our onboarding. And we ended up doing it as a mandatory part just because we want to make sure that that's filed away and box checked. And so from a regulatory standpoint, we did the appropriate thing. We gathered that information, and if it was any different than what we talked about, we can make some notes to adjust for that. But it also, I think, helps them see at the end. If you click through all the way to the end, it actually tells them what category they fell in. So they kind of know, okay, wait, I answered this and it says I'm max growth, but that's not what I'm comfortable with. Then they can immediately see that so we can have a conversation right away.
Yep.
Very nice. Yeah, I haven't seen anybody bake it right into the onboarding questionnaire, and I personally really like that you guys did this because they're getting one link. One link. It has the risk tolerance, it has the onboarding questionnaire. You're not having to send them multiple things. Everything is just in that one link for them to go through.
And when we're using, we have it included in our, I'll call it our existing client information update template. And that's important for us. We feel we have life changes. We've got an obligation to keep up with those life changes. And so if we see that they were maybe moderate risk and then we got updated information a year or 2, 3 years later, and that risk level came down or they answered differently, then we've got an obligation to have that conversation and say, okay, do we need to adjust your portfolios because some things have changed? And so having
Yeah.
that also baked into our update template is really impactful for us too, to make sure that we're investing in the ways in which they need and want us to.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. Yeah, so it sounds like um, data maintenance is really helpful with PreciseFP of, sending over a pre-filled engagement with all of the information that you already have on them and just maybe asking them to give it a once over and update anything that's missing or change anything that's incorrect. And then you guys have that, your operations team has that to update everything else.
Yep.
So I kind of give you a little insight into what we're working on with kind of, I'll call it version 2 as well for us, is if you look at something that stuck out to us was the healthcare industry, right? I'm not sure if you all, and I'm sure some people on the webinar today, when you go into the doctor's office, before you show up nowadays, they send you a link, right? They want you to verify your insurance information, verify your who they're able to share your medical history with, et cetera. And you can't even meet with the doctor before you fill that out. If they don't have it, they hand you an iPad in the office and say, come back to me when you're done. We don't do that, but version 2 for us is being more and more proactive with that, so that when we're meeting with clients for their progress reviews, those housekeeping items, those are taken care of before the meeting, right? Where we're verifying beneficiaries. Hey, we have, Amy and Michael listed as beneficiaries 50-50. Is this still accurate? Right? To where if not, well, then we'll have that as an item to discuss in our meeting. But the majority of things like email, phone number, those types of things, risk tolerance questionnaire, we just want to make sure that we've got correct information on file. So Gen 2 for us and what we're developing out is the ability to proactively, as we build out our team, obviously, proactively send these questionnaires back out. Your upcoming appointment with the Cornerstone team, before you come in, verify your information that we have on file, right? And then if it's different, or maybe they don't have a trusted contact and we're trying to add one, right? Those types of items now can potentially open up other conversations or add agenda items to our meetings going forward. So that's kind of something that we're going to be working on in the future. Right now, we have it built in our workflow for current and existing, but future state will look like how we can send this proactively to clients, maybe before even just a typical progress review that we have with them, so that we don't necessarily even, our hope is that we don't even have to talk about those items. We already
Yeah.
verified that your phone number and your email are accurate. We've got that out of the way. Now let's dive into what's going on with your life. More time
Hmm.
spent.
That's really great. And you're right. Every meeting should build off the other. It shouldn't just go back to square one each time. And I know, Chase, you mentioned everything's done on your phone now. Your phone and your browser is filling in a lot of this information for you now. So that's really convenient as well, where, you just type in the first few letters and it's going to pre-fill everything and move to the next page really quickly.
Yep.
All right. And it doesn't seem like it's necessary for this type of engagement of the onboarding, but definitely know you can embed your calendar in there on the last page if that made sense. So that way you're sending one link, you get that onboarding information, you get their risk tolerance, and they can even book a meeting with you on that last page. So definitely that customizability is up to you. We do suggest to blueprint things out as well. You don't have to implement all of these or any of these into your system, but you might find that they do make sense. We have a few
And
questions. Yeah,
on that, Nora, as your processes change, we recently started using Calendly, and so that's something that we haven't done yet. But now that we've built out our meetings in Calendly, for instance, with our planning onboarding, we know that step one is discovery, and so
yeah,
once we get that information, then we can kick off discovery. So embedding that right in there to be able to go ahead and schedule that meeting just keeps that process flowing much quicker. The less thought and energy we have to put into making sure that things are going along smoothly, it puts time back in our pockets to do what we enjoy doing.
that's true. Yep. And, it's on your calendar automatically. You don't have to go in and manually add things.
Hmm.
You just open up your phone the morning of and you can see exactly what you have to do that day.
Exactly.
All right, just some questions that came in. Emily is asking best practices for those clients who do not fill out their Precise FP form in a timely manner or only partially fill out.
That is a great question because that does happen very
Yep.
often. So for us, we've got that built into our workflow software to where once it is sent, there is a reminder for our team to follow up with them. There's also built in periodic reminders that you can activate on PreciseFP so that and I think you can pick how many day intervals you want it to do every 3 or 5 days, where it hits them with another email. Hey, reminder, you haven't completed your onboarding questionnaire yet. And you can set it in perpetuity. So um, you can have that. We essentially do both, in our process, so that our operations team can pick up the phone or send them a text saying reminder, but then they're also getting email reminders from PreciseFP. So it's already embedded in the software, but I'd encourage you to also embed it in your process.
Nice. Yeah, something else I've seen work well is in PreciseFP, you can see how far somebody is in engagement. Maybe you pop in and you see they're 80% done. I've seen some people just give that person a call at that point or jump on a Zoom very quickly and fill out the last 20% on their behalf
Yep.
and kind of just get the information they need very quickly. 5 minutes, I just need to go through these last few questions, and that seems to help as well.
Yeah.
hmm One other quick note on that as well is, our ops team does do that,
Oh,
specific
okay.
to the case where somebody may not get all the way through it. It's nice to be able to see the status, as you mentioned, because sometimes we'll be doing our team call and we say, hey, has Mr. and Mrs. Smith completed their onboarding questionnaire? And then go in and go, well, they got to the risk tolerance questionnaire and then they stopped, right? And so that then tells us, okay, well, maybe an advisor should call them to help them work through those questions of what the RTQ talks about. That's more of an advisor role rather than a, hey, my phone wasn't letting me put in my driver's license expiration date, which is, could be handled by an operations associate, right? So being able to go in and see where they maybe got stuck, or to your point, we've gotten calls before and clients go, hey, I'm on it right now and I just have a question about this. And we can go in and click through, see exactly what they're seeing, see their responses in real time, and then help walk them through maybe whatever they're stuck on. So that's kind of how we handle that.
Really great. And then I've also seen people prefer to do it in PreciseFP. Sometimes your CRM has different, you know, you got to click on this tab and scroll down and click edit and type it in. PreciseFP is just one long page on the profile page. So it really helps your brain as well just to go through that one scroll versus clicking on tabs and having to edit as well. All right. And Natasha is asking, does this require the client to set up a username and password that allows them to come back to this if they can't complete it all at once?
Great question. So the way that we send it out, it does not require them to set up a username and password, because I know there is one way that you send it out. I think it's when you send out a general link. It requires a
Mhm.
client to create a username and password. We shied away from that because we didn't want to confuse clients with what is this profile I'm creating for, right? We just want to use this onboarding questionnaire to gather and verify client information. We don't necessarily see a need for them to keep up with an extra username and password. People already have enough trouble keeping up with their passwords. So when we send it to them individually via email, it does require them to two-factor authenticate, which we use with their cell phone. And then because of that, they don't need to necessarily um, create a username and password, but they are able to re-click the link down the road, re-authenticate, and continue later down the road. So it doesn't require them to have a separate login, but they are able to re-click that invite link, re-authenticate, and pick up where they left off. Because again, you might go, oh, well, I didn't plan on having a contingent beneficiary, but now I got to go call Timmy and ask for his social security number. That's going to take a minute. So people can go back in to FA, back into it, and then pick up where they left off because it's a personalized individual email link, not a general one.
Yeah. Yeah, and happens with every industry now. You get a code sent to your phone, you type it in, and that's how you enter into the platform to
Yep.
put in your information. Awesome. Well, Tim is asking, how do you handle husband and wife? Do you primarily send the information to the first one and then add more in the future, or do you encourage them both to independently complete their own info?
Good question. I'll take that one. So we add primary and secondary client. That's an option in there when we're sending out an email. So we can send it to both, and then they can independently, or we've had it before where the husband started it and the wife finished it because, oh, she handles the finances. So when we got to the suitability with the income and the expenses, she filled out that portion. But when it came to the individual first name, last name, all of those DNA points, one person completed that. So it does have the option to where one or the other could complete it. Typically, if it's a couple that's working with us, we just send it to both of them and go, whoever wants to knock it out, knock it out. We don't necessarily have them complete it separately.
I love that. So send the engagement to both and just give them the directions to complete it, and you guys don't really worry about it from there, who's doing it.
Yeah,
Primary
and
and secondary.
it's connected on one questionnaire as
Mm.
client, co-client, however it's denoted. So it's their own info, but it's connected rather than two totally separate questionnaires.
Yeah, that's great because I know personally if it was up to my husband, it would never get completed, right? So I'd have to go in and do it. Oh, that's great. All right. And then we have another question that came in just kind of verifying that you can link your Calendly to the onboarding or follow-up appointment templates. And I know I'm a visual person. I can kind of show you exactly what we mean by that. I'll go back and share this screen. I'm logged into PreciseFP as well under my credentials. I have a template here that I customized for same thing. I took the red tail one and I customized it down, probably customized it up more than down. I added to it more than took away. But if I scroll all the way to the end here, I did put that, oops, that risk tolerance questionnaire, and then I embedded my calendar. So the calendar you're looking at right now isn't Calendly. This is G Reminders calendar. So this is assuming I use G Reminders and I embedded that calendar right in, but it would look just like this. But instead, it would be Calendly branded, and they would be able to choose their date and time. But yes, you can put in your Calendly link right into that onboarding questionnaire. They can choose that preferred date and time right as they're filling out that information. Oh, and Josiah is asking a follow-up on that. Does it work with most calendar providers? Calendly, Zoom Scheduler, Acuity, yep, all of those are included. Throw G reminders in there as well. All of those calendar options are available. Sarah's asking, is there any electronic signature that is collected on the form? Not on your form.
Nope, not on our form. And the reason why is because, again, this is really just a data gathering component. Where we're collecting the client signature is, of course, we're going to put their information on our new account forms. They're going to review it for accuracy, and then they're going to sign our new account forms, right? So this is just a means to collect information. We're then going to duplicate that information onto our required forms to engage with the client, and then that's
Got
where
it.
we're collecting signature.
Yep, exactly. And e-signature capability does come complimentary with your subscription, but this is going to be case by case. You got to check with your broker dealer or see if it's redundant to any of, some services you might already have like DocuSign, and then kind of go from there. Natasha's asking, where do uploaded docs get stored when they submit them in the form? Do they go directly in the CRM, or do you have this link to a separate service like ShareFile?
Mike, I believe we access them directly from PreciseFP's portal. We don't
Mhm.
have it integrate or go somewhere else. But Nora, you may be able to tell us if that is a possibility. But when our clients upload the statements, we just grab them out of
Yeah.
the PreciseFP portal.
Yep, exactly. So if I go to Annie here on PreciseFP and I go to her profile, there is an area here in the top right that says documents. Any documents that she uploaded will be here.
Mhm. Yep. So
But
that's,
there
yeah.
There is a box.com integration, for example, where it will actually go into the files on Box if that's something you're looking for.
That's another one of those check with your broker
Yeah.
dealer firm because some firms are very open architecture. Others say you can only work with certain approved technology vendors. And so yeah, I would say check with your firm to see if they allow a box.com or others.
Yep, exactly correct. All right. Well, I think those are most of the questions that we have today. Any advice for new users or kind of suggestions to get started?
I would just say, I think I said this earlier, start with the end in mind. Think about what you want your process to look like, and then how Precise FP can optimize that process. And then make the time commitment. Mike did that for our team, did an excellent job of just carving out some time and saying, okay, I want to customize this. I want these mappings. I want it to look this way. Um, Make the investment because it'll save time on the back end.
Yeah. I would say two things. To piggyback on Chase's point there, if you have an operations team or maybe an assistant that's helping you with paperwork, we intentionally sent this to our ops team as we were developing it to say, hey, we're thinking about building it like this. How is that going to work in your world? Right? Because again, we're not in the day-to-day of paperwork and doc management, things like that. So we heavily involved them in the design of the questionnaire. Part of the reason why the flow of the questionnaire maps up with the new account portal, because we wanted them to basically go side by side and just be able to take the information that doesn't maybe flow over to Redtail and then just go straight down the page. The second thing I would recommend is start kind of small. Figure out a specific space where this software may solve a problem. And then what we found, again, we started with a new client onboarding. That was our first one. And then as time has gone on, now we have developed other questionnaires off of that one for specific instances. Like we mentioned earlier, it started with a new client relationship. Well, now in the future, we want to use it more for existing clients, pre-progress review meetings. We have a separate one that's a really less invasive questionnaire on financial planning. We just need the initial data points that we need to get their agreements filled out and then sent out to them for signature. Well, Social Security number is not required for that. Well, if I don't need somebody's social, I don't want it, especially in that instance. So we started with one, and then we perfected that, and we're always perfecting it. There's always room for improvement. But then we've been able to identify other areas of our practice where we're able to work the same questionnaire, maybe slightly different, into other processes. So start
Yeah,
small.
that
A long way to
that's
say that.
that's really great advice. Yeah, start small, start with what's there, and kind of go from there. We did have a few other questions come in. Looked like there was one field to upload a PDF statement. Can this be used for the client to upload multiple PDFs and then it goes into that document section? Yep, that's exactly how it'll work. They'll put as many as they need and it'll all go into that document section. In PreciseFP, let's say Cornerstone has just sent out an update template to a client and had the meeting. After you push the data to your CRM, is it common for you guys to clear out the client queue in PreciseFP so the client's no longer in PreciseFP?
That's a great question. The answer is yes, Josiah. Particularly just from a data management perspective, we don't want, although it is an encrypted portal, we don't want PII on multiple systems if they don't have to be, right? So our CRM is kind of our main source of storage for that sensitive information. Although it's a secure portal, we also don't want, maybe somebody goes in and updates PreciseFP, but they don't update Redtail, or maybe the export didn't fix, didn't mend that data. So if you have multiple of the same data in different spots, there's more opportunity for error down the road with, oh, well, I helped a client fill out their questionnaire and we had already exported it to Redtail, for example, for an existing client. And now you have two different emails or two different phone numbers and two different data sources. So when we onboard a client, we get them through the questionnaire, we export all of the data to our CRM, and then eventually we will drop them out of PreciseFP. And again, if we're using it down the road, we just upload them again back into PreciseFP to start another questionnaire with them? Great question.
That came about our broker dealers. That is a specific policy for them, is asking that we limit the areas in which we maintain client information. And so the import and export feature of Redtail makes that not a hassle factor. So again, I've mentioned that a couple of times of compliance and regulatory environment. PreciseMP makes it very easy to follow your firm's policies.
Yeah, that's some great best practice. Thanks for sharing that. I like that a lot. Do you use PreciseFP to fill out your custodial forms? You guys use Equip with Osaic, so that wouldn't really apply, but there are Schwab ones in there, Pershing, things like that, if you are using it. Tim wants to let you guys know congrats to Michael and Chase, new partners at Osaic. Thank you for sharing today. I agree, Tim. Thank you guys so much for sharing all of this information. We'll go ahead and wrap up some last minute items. If you have any questions that maybe didn't get answered or that come up a little bit later, definitely use this question mark or question box here on the bottom right. It's there on every page in PreciseFP as well as PreciseFP.com. You can type in your questions here. It's always going to be a person on the other side, and the response time is about 7 seconds, so it's really impressive. Just throw in your questions and we're more than happy to help. And then I also want to just let you know there is a referral program with PreciseFP going on right now. If
We should have
you
gotten
put
a
in,
code.
oh yeah, put your code in right
Come
now.
on, Nora.
I know we should have gone that code route, right? Where it's like use my code and you'll be able to get this discount. So we might have to put something together for that. But the way it works right now is you have to put in somebody's email address and their name, and then we'll let them know that they have a 50% discount for 3 months, and then you'll get a $100 gift card. So
All right.
that is precisefp.com/refer.
That's also how we found out about PreciseFP to begin with, was a
Oh,
referral from a peer uh, grabbing cocktails after a conference, just in the hotel bar, and just talking shop. So um, that's how we shared with people. That's how we learned about it. So good to see that y'all are doing a referral program, because word of mouth, I think, it was one of the most impactful things in our business.
nice. Yeah, you don't know what you don't know. So once you realize it, you're like, why have I been doing it the other way for so
Mm-hmm.
long? Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for coming on today. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Have a great rest of the day.
Thanks, Nora. Thanks,
Thank y'all.
everybody.
Thank you. Take care, everyone. Bye bye.